Today's Toy Spot, we are having a look at the NECA Toys Godzilla figure. I was super excited to get my hands on this figure. Not only are we getting a super detailed version of the Godzilla that we've seen in the new 2014 movie, but we are getting a super articulated figure as well. Before we, of course, have that opened up, there's a choking hazard. Warning, choking hazard, small parts not for children under 3 years of age. This toy is recommended for ages 14 and up. You may or may not be able to see it, but in the back card there is a really nice image of the updated Godzilla. On the back of the package, your read-up says possibly the last of an ancient species of giant amphibious creatures that evolved at a time when the surface of the Earth was over 10 times more radioactive than it is today. Godzilla can convert his radiation stores into a violent, focused inhalation of atomic breath. Rarely seen but spoken of in ancient Pacific Island myths, Gojira was last spotted in 1954 when the U.S. Navy encountered and attempted to kill him with an atomic blast in the Pacific Ocean. Since then, the giant creature has been living in the deep ocean until a threat to his survival from an ancient foe forces him to reappear. Be sure to head over to www.necaonline.com. You can check out what NECA is currently producing, not only the Godzilla, but a list of different properties. Spot's going to take a break and get this opened up. When we come back, we're going to get a better look at Godzilla. There's more heading your way, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. When you first get Godzilla packaging, there is some assembly that's required. Because he is so long of a figure, they had to keep the tail as a separate piece. Now, you will see before I plug this in that both sections of the tail, the section that connects to one end of the tail and the section that's previously connected, are both ball socket joints. So that means all these individual joints are going to be super articulated once you get everything together. So you're just going to take the tail, and you kind of have to be a little careful because these top spikes are sharp. Not sharp, but they are prickly, but you're going to just apply a little bit of pressure to get that tail in place. Godzilla definitely is a sight to be seen. Now, he doesn't have a lot of color, nor did he really have a lot of color in the movie. The majority of the figure is a dark gray, almost really borderline straight out black, but it's a little bit lighter than a black. He does have some coloring on the front belly, underbelly of his of the figure as well, really running from the top of the neck, running all the way down the undersides of the tail. You can also see, too, these little holes are your indication as well that these are wire frames. So really above and beyond the articulation that we're going to be having a look at, you also have the benefit of a wire framed tail. And I'm glad to see that NECA had included multiple ways to bend the tail via the ball joint and the wire frame. Oh my god, though, that head is super awesome. It is small. Now really, the scope and scale of the figure, he's a smaller figure, being that he is really approximately, well, he's a little bit shorter than a 6-inch sized figure, but because of that, and because of the proportions, you get a very small head on Godzilla. But it makes sense. That's the way Godzilla is designed, really. Smaller head, very big body, especially large in the legs. But that head sculpt is quite impressive, gauging how small this head is. It does have some articulation, not really a lot in the mouth, but you can still see that NECA painted the inside of the mouth, and even if I tip the head up, you can see how even on the inside mouth, up in the roof of his mouth, is still painted a flesh pink color. His teeth are all painted individually white, so really a lot of care, a lot of detail has been put in the figure, and you can see his eyes there as well, painted nice and yellow, kind of more borderline a gold yellow, with the indication of his pupil there as well. But, I mean, again, his head doesn't have a lot of articulation, at least in the mouth area, but you can open and close it slightly. it's definitely still nice to see that you can get a lot of articulation, at least in the rest of his body, especially in areas like his neck. I would have almost expected like this whole section right here to be one singular ball joint, and that was all the articulation you could get out of the figure. But no, he does actually have a ball joint in the upper section as well, where you can move his neck one way, and you can move the lower neck area another way, just to give a much more dynamic way to display and pose him. When we bring the camera further back, there's definitely a lot of detail in this figure. Now, Spot had indicated when you put the tail on, you kind of have to be careful because a lot of these spike areas are pointy. Most of the scales, most of the spikes are a pliable rubbery plastic, so you're not going to have too many issues here. But I find the one area you have to be careful with is right here. This tail spike here, these two right here are a little sharp. So when you're putting the tail on, watch putting your finger around there. Not that you're going to damage your fingers or your skin or anything like that, but yeah, just be a little careful when you put that tail on. But the rest of the figure is very, very, very cool. Super, super articulate. In fact, when we go through the articulation, you're going to see that they put a lot into this figure. In fact, you know what? Let's have a look at the articulation right now. We've kind of already covered the neck. The neck is on its own ball joint. Ball joints up and down, not too much, but does rotate left and right quite easily. Equally so, his top of his head can rotate independently. When you get to these shoulders, the shoulders appear only to be a single hinge socket. Now, you can move the arms out, and you can move them all the way around, but they don't allow too much of a wide range of movement here. Understandably so, because I mean, look at how the shoulder area is sculpted. I say shoulder, but that's, I guess, technically Godzilla's shoulder. Because it's sculpted this way, you can't move the arms out too much. Understandably so. I mean, Godzilla didn't have a lot of movement in his shoulders anyways. The rest of the arm, though, there is a hinge ball socket right there, so you can move the arm out, rotate that all the way around. And above and beyond that, he also has a ball joint in the hand. You can see right away, really, Spot hasn't even touched the rest of the figure yet, and how much articulation is really just encompassing this area right here. As for his legs are also on a hinge socket. They can rotate to really about there. They can spread out to really about there. That's about it. But they do rotate forward and back. His knees, or lower legs I should say for that matter, are also a pin socket joint. So they rotate back and forth, technically all the way around, but I wouldn't really recommend it. You wouldn't want to stress it too much to about there, and then the leg, after too much resistance, could pop off. But it does rotate quite a bit there. And then finally down to his feet, there are ball joints in the foot section there as well. You can see too that he does have peg points on the undersides of his feet, though he doesn't come with a display stand. I kind of wish we had gotten some sort of display stand with like maybe smaller buildings that would have given him that scope of size. When you get to his tail, the tail is probably the most impressive end of it, as each individual section, as we were talking before, are on their own ball joints. So there's a ball joint section here. They rotate up, down, not too much, but more so left and right. There's a ball socket right there that moves up and down, rotates. There is a ball socket right there. There is a ball socket right there. And then again, the rest of the tail is a wire frame. It doesn't move too much. You really have to do a lot of bending to get the tail just right. But the tail really is in a position that I would want it anyways. So you get 1, 2, 3, and then 4 individual sections to the tail. I mean, you can, again, get Godzilla posed in any which way you want. We have gotten large Godzillas, and I really like the fact that almost, for that matter, there's different toy companies handling different ends of Godzilla. Jakks Pacific did a really huge Godzilla, which Spot's already had a look at, the incredibly giant Godzilla. That's geared towards a market that wants a big Godzilla, and I don't blame them. Kids are definitely going to want a huge Godzilla. NECA, though, on the other hand, went the route of a much smaller figure, for obvious reasons, but one that's super articulated and super detailed. So it's great to be a collector. You can get a figure that's really, really big, accommodates the kids, accommodates the ones that really want a huge Godzilla. But somebody that wants maybe a Godzilla that's going to be good on a shelf, not going to take up a lot of space, but the trade-off is a super articulated figure, then NECA's Godzilla is the one that you want to be picking up. Godzilla, I'm going to give him a solid 9. Today's Toy Spot, we were having a look at the NECA Toys 2014 Godzilla figure. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more Toy Spots heading your way. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.